for a reflector, like really, you are going to feel so freaking selfish when you start advocating for your own self-care. You are so aware of your surroundings, and you are so aware of what people expect of you. You are so freaking aware. And here's the thing, I would make a bet, and it would depend on your charts. Obviously, there's parts of your charts that really speak to addictions, and there's parts of your charts that really speak to how sensitive you are as a being. But I would say if you're that aware, wine o'clock is so freaking tempting, isn't it? You're just like, oh, I'm so aware, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so tapped out that, like 4:30 in the afternoon rolls in and you're like, oh, it's Chardonnay time. It's Chardonnay o'clock. And yeah. So thinking about that for yourself, like what is a, what do I want to say? A culturally appropriate self-care method, like Chardonnay o'clock for sure. And then now in Canada, cannabis is completely legal. You can just go and get whatever you like from the dispensary and, have a toke and, sort of bliss out with either of those things. But when your self-care strategy becomes a checkout method, and if this checkout method becomes a daily occurrence, then it's probably time to have a look at that for yourself. I know this is probably not what you were expecting from this show, but it really is coming forward that, there are ways of blissing out and there are ways of checking out. So a good question for you to ask yourself is this a bliss out practice? And is this a checkout practice? And, what's the difference? Like, is one glass of wine a bliss out practice, or 2 glasses of wine a bliss out practice? Or are you wiping out a whole bottle of wine? And I would say at times in my life, I definitely used wine to check out. So I would say that was effective. It helped me not care so much about what people around me were doing and thinking. And, as a super sensitive being, fully aware of what people are doing and thinking, fully aware, maybe too freaking aware. And, I have not had alcohol of any kind since very early 2020, just like when the pandemic started. I think it was about 2 weeks before it started, I had the awareness that I needed to just stop alcohol completely. And I definitely was using it as a coping strategy, a coping mechanism. It was well beyond blissing out. I was like, this wine tastes good. And it also helps me not care so much about what's going on in my house, not care so much about what's going on in the world. And so many people were drinking during the pandemic. I mean, that was, a culturally appropriate self-care strategy, right? And so thinking about that for yourself, like, what are these self-care strategies? And is it self-care? Is it self-care? Or is it stopping you from feeling really freaking disappointed about where you are, disappointed about your trajectory, disappointed about your business, disappointed about your relationships? Because that's the signature, the not self signature of being a reflector, is disappointment.